What's going on, everybody? My name is KYREN Monteiro. You're here on the KYREN Monteiro Show, episode number 10, and it is actually the wrap-up of this first season that I've been just casually playing with here with the one and only Mr. Trent Dailey. He is the owner of Insurance Management Group. The owner of Insurance Management Group. He is the owner of Grant County Abstract Company and many other things, and we got to give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Glad to be here, man.
Now, Trent, you are a huge inspiration to myself, Ronnie Morrell, Dustin Blades, just many young entrepreneurs and people within the community. But I wanted to get the more human side of you today, because they're gonna get a chance to get that business side of you on your own podcast and platform. But I love your life story. So you grew up here in Marion, born and raised, native, love the city, graduated with Mr. Zach Randolph and Andrew Morrell and all of those guys. So can you just go back in the day to how you grew up and just your life story to now?
Sure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
So I was raised probably middle class. My dad, he was a sales guy for a company in town called Core Supply.
Okay.
He actually played basketball at Ball State. So he was a basketball player, and early on that sports obviously were a big thing in my life. So I grew up playing basketball. For those of you local, the old Boys and Girls Club, 2020 Clark Street. Spent many a summers there.
The blue building.
That's right. The floor sweating, 100 degrees. One gym, run and gun. Made a lot of great friends, relationships. Really grateful my dad had the forward knowledge to expose me to different communities at a young age. I grew up, primarily in a white community, but I had, several black friends, and still great friends to today. Me and Zach are the same age, and Andrew, and we all played AAU together. So I had a lot of great memories growing up playing sports, also playing soccer. Went to Marion High School, graduated, played basketball there, played soccer there, and then I went on to Purdue to get into computers. So that's kind of it.
Nice. So that journey of you going to college for technology and then further going on, you worked at Microsoft. Can you kind of tell that journey to how you became a business owner today?
Yeah. I think by luck, actually, but
nah, not by luck. Definitely not.
So I went to school, and I'll be a little more transparent than I probably would with most people, but I went to school and didn't make all the best choices. Joined a fraternity. Grades may have fell a little bit. Missed some classes. Did all those things that you do as a young adult. You get out of the house. So made some pretty poor choices and found myself. Luckily enough, I ended up with an internship. I was actually at Purdue for 2 years, not doing very well education-wise, needed some maturity in my life. Got an opportunity to do an internship at Microsoft, and after that 3-month stint, they said, "Hey, do you want to stay?" And I'm thinking, man, this would be my ideal job, right? So I decided to stay, and so I left college after 2 years, and I stayed. I worked in the MSN operations, and at that point, I learned so much about technology, way far and beyond what I was learning in college. It was an incredible experience. I did all the stupid stuff you're supposed to do in a different city, which is great. None of it came back. And then, after my wife had moved out there, and we both had kind of decided that we wanted to move back home and be close to family. So I re-enrolled in school, and at that point in time, my technology classes were, I'm not going to say they were a joke, but with the experience I had, I was able to kind of breeze through them, and the maturity I had, I actually knew if I showed up to class, I would actually do pretty good. So started going to class again, graduated in 2007. And at the time, very unique resume with all that experience. I had a lot of different job opportunities, but they were all out of state. Bank of America was in Charlotte, Hewlett-Packard in Cincinnati, Allstate and their business IT department in Northbrook, Illinois were all some of the front runners at the time. And me and my wife just decided we wanted to keep it local. My father-in-law used to joke. He goes, man, it's going to be a really long commute if you take one of those out-of-state jobs. He goes, my grandkids are going to live in Indiana. So a little bit of family pressure as well. But, I ended up starting with IMG. I can go into that story a little bit. I was the previous owner. I actually went to school with his sons, are really good friends of mine. And I'll never forget, he came to Purdue, and we were going to go to a basketball game, and he took me out to dinner with the current president at the time, and he goes, hey, why don't you come work for me? And I was like, doing what? And he's like, well, I bought this insurance agency, and maybe one day you'll perpetuate it. I don't know, but you don't want to go work for corporate America. Come and work for me. And in my mind, I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh, man, okay. And he looked up at me and he said, okay, now that we got that settled, let's eat. So in his mind, he had sealed the deal. He told me he could pay me $20,000 less than my best offer I'd been given. So, me and my wife moved out to the farm where she's from, and we kind of squatted in a little place on the farm that her dad helped us out with so we could kind of get our feet on the ground.
So you know what it feels like to have to start bottom of something, because that's, $20,000 less than your best offer. You probably was thinking like, no way.
Well, in my mind, I didn't seal the deal that I was actually going there, but in his mind, I did, and God's great. I was in the right place at the right time. I started my first job making $40,000 a year, as a sales producer. And so I've been blessed in my life. I wouldn't say I've had a golden spoon, depending on who you talk to. They'd probably argue that a little bit. But I haven't had to really want for anything, but we definitely weren't, upper class. And, my dad was pretty, stern when I was on my own. I was building my own dream and my own mission. So yeah, started living in a house, a 100-year-old house out in the country, making $40,000 a year.
Yeah, man. Round of applause to that come up. So that brings you to now. You've owned IMG since 2015. You've been around incredible people, own several businesses. For people who want to start a business right here in Marion, Indiana, or wherever they may be at, what is your advice to entrepreneurs? Because most people are starting from zero and building up. So what is some gems that whatever you feel like you can throw out to challenge and help people?
Man, I should probably ask you that question. You got more experience in that. I guess in my experience, I've bought a couple of businesses, so maybe find a business to buy. That's one way of doing it. One of the skill sets that, and one of my mentors helped me out with this. There's several businesses in town that kids aren't coming back to run that are going to be available or need perpetuated. There's several good opportunities. So I'm not saying you could just want to come in and want to buy one, off the jump, but finding the right opportunity and putting in some work there could create an opportunity, because a lot of times, like in my situation, IMG, is there's a way to structure a deal to where the business can kind of buy itself out. So if you know what you're doing, you have the right, skills, this skill sets, and I'd be happy to help people. I would say buying one is a heck of a lot easier than starting one. I have some experience with starting new businesses, but it's really, really hard, and it really depends on, what you're trying to achieve and what service you have. And as you can attest, certain industries are a lot harder than others, Yeah,
that is true. Now, one thing I've observed from watching you kind of like distantly and up close at times in the last, maybe year and a half almost since we've connected, is you're big on building culture and adding value to your employees. Now, I won't say any companies, but I've worked in factories / warehouses here in Grant County where there's not a culture, there's not a value on the employees, and I can tell you I absolutely hated coming to those places. Not just because I wanted to build my own business, but I didn't feel value from the ownership, because in some of these businesses, the owners have been present on the day-to-day grind with everybody else. Why is it so important to build up culture within the top level of ownership, and management? Like, why is that important?
Employees are your greatest asset. People are your greatest asset. So the way I view a business, you have all these different assets. Someone might say it's their buildings, but truly employees are your greatest asset. And the way I view business now, and I've said this, a couple of different times, but me as CEO, my role is no more important than any other role out there. So I don't feel like I'm more important than the person answering the phones, or the person, the account manager or the producer. I serve a different purpose. I have a different skill set. But we're all important. And my job is to remove roadblocks to allow other people to do their jobs. And so we're all, if we're flying a plane, you got the pilots, you got the stewardess, you got all the different people, you got the mechanics. Which one's the most important? All of them. And if people don't find value in what they do, they're just not going to be there. And one of the things when I started that is still a goal of mine is when people leave or retire in their career, I want them to look back and say, man, this was the best ride I could have taken. This was one heck of a ride. So the pride in that for me is that we only get one ride in life. You only get one life. And I want people to feel appreciated. I want people to feel valued. And I really feel like that's what business is all about anyways. I mean, back in the olden days, in the biblical days, men used to get together just to kind of share life, right? And I think culture is a word that gets thrown around all the time, like culture this, culture that. Culture is intentionality, building relationships, and serving other people and not yourself. And I think that word gets muddled quite a bit. So So that's the reasoning behind it, but I'd even go further and say, from a business stance, if you take care of your team and you care about your team, it'll probably save you money too. That's the funny part. Like think about how much it costs to hire an employee. Hire, train, all that stuff. Like the amount of money you spend in turnover and hiring employees is just incredible. So you could argue there's a business sense to do it, but the reason why I do it is because I just care about my team, and I think it's why we're here.
I think any CEO can learn from you, even if they have 100 times more size of business or money. I think they can learn from you. Pivoting into spirituality, you're a fellow Christian just like I am. How did you find that faith in Jesus? Because you're not ashamed to talk about it openly.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic, and I don't want to get into denominations because I don't really care anymore.
Nah.
But that's how I was raised in a certain way, in a more formal way, and that's not where I go to church now. But, for me, it's God put certain people in my life, and there was a time in my life, probably in my 20 to till the time I had my first kid, where I wasn't walking in faith. And that's why I say that I was Catholic, and then I was pretty much nothing. I was doing all those things you're not supposed to do and finding myself. And then I had my first kid and saw that miracle, and I was like, man. And then since then, it's been a focus of mine. But it really happened when I bought my first business. I was just miserable. I wasn't sleeping. I was stressed out. I didn't know what to do. And one of the vices, I just had some really good men put in my life that helped me live out a life that focused on God first, others second, myself third. So I'm really grateful for the mentorship and the people that were put in my life. And I think we all need that in different areas. And that was an area that at that point in time in my life, I didn't have clarity. So.
Yeah, that's great stuff. For people who don't want to be entrepreneurs, because you stressed a lot, business isn't for everybody. Probably isn't for a lot of people who get into it. For people making goals or entrepreneurship, job goals, whatever, how important is a plan just for life in general? You know what I mean? Like,
it's very important. I say that laughing because my skill set is I don't like to follow plans. I'm more of a cowboy in general. So like I'm an idea guy. I don't like to fall through a ton. Those that know me are laughing right now. I have a lot of people in my life that do love to fall through. So
I had to. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. But a plan's important. In business, it's super important. I laugh because both me and my wife, neither one of us have that trait of like, we all want to start projects. We got these great ideas, but it's hard to get them finished around the house. So, yeah, a plan's super important. I'm not normally disciplined enough to stick to a plan, whether that be a diet or anything else. I'm kind of riding the wave, but a plan's important.
So for you know me, I'm cowboy. I wish I had a budget. I'm great at setting a vision, and if I can appoint people to make it happen and just be a CEO, boy, I would be. Yeah, I could be a Phil Jackson of that. But the reality is that most of us, we have to be on the ground and have hands in. So for those of us, I'm going to identify as that, who suck at that, I'm just going to be honest. How do you go about getting it? I mean, you have different templates out. You can watch YouTube. You have mentors like yourself. How do we go about developing a plan if that's not our skill set on a micro level? Because I think that's a skill set within itself, in my opinion.
I think anyone can develop a plan. It's not like there's a shortage in resources. If you Google how to get a plan, I think the probably the better question to ask is, what are you trying to achieve? Like, what's most important? So we talk about being a business owner or not. Like, man, if someone's most important, I argue with my wife all the time. I said, you have the most important job in the house. It's raising those 4 kids. Like, what is most important? How do you define success? And what are you trying to achieve? We can get any type of software out there to give us buzzes to do this at this time and do this, and we have to grind through it. And to use your term, I remember I hated sales. So on the days that I had to cold call, I go to Starbucks, I get that Trent, is it called the Trent Dailey, the biggest one, Frappuccino, as much sugar and caffeine as I could get to get my body, just to get enough energy and excitement to go out and make those cold calls, because I didn't want to make them. So I think there's ways to actually do those things, but I would say getting clarity on what you're trying to achieve or outcome is probably the most important thing.
Okay, round of applause on that. I had to do that. Now let me bring it back to locally, and we're gonna be selfish for a minute. We're both Marion natives here, man, Indiana. I don't know from your viewpoint, from your day-to-day life, but from my viewpoint on the ground, I think in the last 3 to 5 years, there is a new sense of urgency for Marion to change. Because if I'm honest, I think it's been stagnant. At least it's felt like that. Growing up here, it felt like even if you didn't stay here, it was a launching pad to get you ready for the world. And I feel like for some years it's been stagnant, but I don't feel like that anymore. You get out, people have a sense of urgency of making it happen. I don't know if we executing it to making it happen, but it at least feels like that. Even being downtown here, it's been great to see beautification, and it seems like, man, it just has a culture being built up. A lot of people. Sorry for being long-winded. A lot of people, but can you speak on where we're at, how we can move forward? And I'm not talking just business. I'm talking about day-to-day work, because I'm talking about just the community at large. Like, how can we get back to being a city on the move and go to where we've never been?
It's a great question, and this is just an opinion, right? I'm not
it's a great opinion.
I wouldn't say that this should carry a lot of weight with this opinion, but Grant County has an incredible heart. I meet people all the time from all over the state, and I say Marion, and they know a guy. And it's like the charismatic guy. They're like, oh, like everyone they meet or in my class around that time, like, I just love that guy. Marion has a great heart, has great people, has great services. We take care of our people. I mean, all the non-for-profits, just an incredible community that cares. I think that would be the thing that I admire most about the community is, and people have a focus on change, and people like yourself. There's a lot of people trying to drive change. There's a younger generation that's kind of coming up that's showing interest in the business side. There's a lot of philanthropic stuff going on. The chamber's strong. There's just a really good group of people that care about this community that I think are pouring in. Our current mayor has done a good job and put a focus on that. There's several investors that are focused on downtown, which we think is important. So it takes a community. You can't turn one developer or 2 developers can't turn downtown around, as an example. So it just takes a unified mindset. And I would agree with you that I believe things are moving in the right direction, that they've been kind of flat. I don't think things are getting worse. And I love Marion. I think it's a great place to raise a family. I'm going to broaden that to Grant County. There's a lot of good stuff going on in Gas City as well. I just feel like there's it's a great place to raise a family. It's a small community. if I want to go do any of those entertainment things, I can drive to Indy and Fort Wayne. But it's always been a special place for me and my family, and it's given us a lot, and that's why we're kind of committed to giving it back.
Round of applause for Man, Indiana. Well, Trent, I appreciate you, giving all of that advice. There's no way I'm letting you get off of this episode without talking sports. Now, you grew up playing with Zach. Some people argue that Zach Randolph might be one of the best power forwards ever. Zach, if you're watching this, I love you, but there is Tim Duncan. I'm not 5 rings. You got to put that on it. And speaking of debates within sports, man, I just heard you talk about on another episode of your podcast that LeBron and Jordan debate, and you can take that thing to life. Why is that even a debate, man? LeBron is amazing.
Yeah, I don't really know why it's a debate outside of I actually remember Magic and Bird a little bit. Jordan was our era, so I think Jordan's the GOAT, right? I
think everybody should think that.
But you think back to Dr. J or Wilt Chamberlain, we never saw him play. And so it seems like there's some level of seeing someone dominate and not seeing someone else dominate. So it's like the younger crowd. I don't think you hear too many older people saying LeBron's the GOAT. It's generally the younger people that probably didn't see Jordan in his prime. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but LeBron's kids are wearing Jordans, right? I mean, come on, man.
Well, he's a heck of a brander. That's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I don't know why it's a debate. I don't think LeBron has achieved the level of Jordan. That all being said, he's an incredible athlete.
I hope the comments go up on this video. I hope I even with Kobe, RIP, rest in peace to Kobe. People can say what they want. I thought Kobe is the closest thing to Jordan. I think it should go Mike, Kobe, then LeBron. And then I think after that, maybe Magic in that. But it's debatable because you got Bill Russell, you got all of these guys. But I feel like Mike and Kobe are cemented as number 2.
It just depends on what you classify, as the greatest of all time, right?
All around.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good all-around players in their time frame. There's other people that transformed the game, right? Think about golf, in Tiger, right? He transformed it. Michael Jordan kind of transformed it. Dr. J transformed it. So there's these different eras of transformation that transcended the game, right? And so if you take that into consideration, Jordan plays a huge part, and you could obviously argue Dr. J. Wilt was just a physical specimen in his time like no other, averaging, scoring 100 points a game. Who does that?
That's crazy.
So yeah, I don't know. I love the debate. I'm not super passionate about who wins in this scenario, but I'm not going to argue. I do believe Jordan is probably the best of all time.
Well, just because you laced them up, I had to ask you that. What do you think about newer players like the Steph Currys, the Kevin Durant's, guys like that? Because Steph Curry has made shooting so popular. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love Steph. I enjoy watching him. It's really interesting. One of my good friends is a coach, and he was talking about the game, and now, because they have all this data and all these insights, he's the mid-range jumper is gone because they're focused on points per possession. And there's this math. If you're not shooting a layup or a 3 in the percentages, it makes no sense to take a jump shot, a mid-range jump shot anymore. So there's all this science behind why the game has evolved and the points per possession and how this all works. That was way over my head, but it was really interesting to hear him talk about it because it's fascinating of how the game has shifted. You don't see people shooting those mid-range jumpers anymore.
Yeah, basketball is very, very interesting right now. I think the physical aspect, Mike and all of those guys was getting beat up. Even in the Vince Carter, Kobe era, it was a little bit more physical. Now I feel like if you cry the wrong way, you're getting. I guess if I'm playing a guy $40 million a year, I wouldn't want him getting touched.
It's different. Well, it's no different in football. I mean, you can't touch anybody in football.
They're getting tackled though. That's.
Yeah, but not like they used to. I mean, they used to hit them down. I mean, there's stories of guys with casts on beating them. I mean, they used to the way they used to hit them and the way they used to grind and try to hurt people. It was a whole different level than what it is now.
Yeah.
But I do got to hold up real quick. I got to give Zach a shout out. One of my favorite NBA players, getting to play with Zach growing up. I just remember playing with him when he was 10 and 11. He was an alternate on our boys and girls club team. Me and Andrew, our team won state in 10U, and Zach was our alternate because at that age, Zach couldn't dribble and walk at the same time. And it got up to when he was about a sophomore. I'll never forget. He took a baseline move, and he was coming in baseline. And he was left-handed like me, and he dunked it. And we were all so shocked because he'd never even really done it in practice. And that was kind of like this light bulb of like, oh man, I'm 6'10", and I could be pretty good at this. And then from there, just he put in the work and those soft hands. Just some of the softest hands I think that's ever played the game.
So for Marion High School basketball alumni, was you a part of the 2000 team that won the state championship?
No, I missed it.
I was there.
Yeah. So a lot of my good friends, I graduated in 99. I was at the I actually dressed. I was at the 98 runner-up to Pike. I was on the bench.
Okay.
I would have been. So I was kind of unique. I sat between really good classes. You know, we had the Kyle Chins, the Andre Betts, the JoJo Williams, the Brad McPherson class was a year older than me. And then in my class, not a lot of people. It was me and maybe Rob Acord. At the boys' club back in the day was Keith Johnson. I don't know if you're Keith.
I've heard the name.
Oh, he was good. Keith didn't actually play, but it was like me and Rob and a few other people. And then below us was the Todd Chin, Reggie Nevels, and then, you know, Zach and Matt Bax. And
Reggie played basketball?
Reggie Nevels?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Reggie could play. Josh Peters was on that team.
I'm going to mess with him next time I see him. I did not know that.
Yeah. Junior, right?
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the sheriff. You're talking about Junior.
Yeah. His son played.
Okay,
yeah. So we had an incredible talent of 3 years. I always say, you know, Zach got in trouble my senior year. Couldn't play, unfortunately. But with that Pike last second, we were up 3 or 4 points going in like 30 seconds left, and we kind of blew it. That could have been a three-peat, you know, 98, 99, 2000. We were pretty close. So they were great teams to be a part of, and learned a lot and made a lot of great friends.
I graduated in 08, Julius Mays, Jay Edwards Jr., those guys. But I would argue that you guys probably had the most legendary time period of Marion High School basketball and just Marion basketball. I mean, you got James Blackman, and you got but there's a lot of talented people that played in you guys' era, man, that
there was a lot of kids just playing at the boys club. There were a lot of guys that played that never even saw the court that were just phenomenal athletes, and we get to see them in summer league. And it was just, I'll never forget the time we were in Muncie, and Muncie had a little bit more bounce on his floor, and he always used to try to catch alley-oops and dunk. You know, Andre's what, 5'6"?
Yeah.
And we were at Muncie, and he had never dunked in a game, and he'd always try and practice, and sometimes would get it. The side goals were like 9.5. He could dunk a little bit. And he got on a fast break, and, you know, he came off that floor and just flushed it. And James Blackman was actually coaching the JV, and I was on the bench. I mean, people were high-fiving, running. It was the most unbelievable thing I think I've seen in person from someone his size. It was the way he exploded, and it wasn't like, you know, just dunked it in. He hammered it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Round of applause to the Marion High School. One more question, man, and then we'll wrap up. For the everyday person, I've had personal conversations with you. Financial responsibility, no matter how much you make. I've heard you say that it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you put out. Any advice on how people can have responsible management, money management, especially as parents? Yeah.
Are you asking in sense of giving, or just like in general, like saving, investing, or?
Yeah, just saving, not blowing money on pointless things. Just kind of, just everyday responsibility financially.
Yeah, that's a great question. First, I am going to talk about the giving a little bit. I believe in giving what you've been given, whether that's a couple dollars here or there. You got to start sometime. So whatever percent that is, I would make it a percentage. I think that's important to give back to what you believe in, whether that's church or a nonprofit. I think we all have a responsibility. If we've been blessed with that. So I'll start there. As far as like they say you should live, off, well, the most important things, your home, your car, your food, those types of things. But there's really not any science to it. I mean, the traditional way to save is to do the 401k, try to keep money in your savings, don't blow it on stupid stuff. But that's all kind of like just normal things you would hear. But the different ways to invest as you start to acquire assets with invested in real estate and different things, I've learned quite a bit in that. So when you get to a level of income, when you have a lot of disposable income, then I would say invest it. Try to live off of the residuals of your investments and not necessarily off of just the free cash you have laying around. So put your money to work in something that appreciates or that pays dividends. And for your ordinary investor, that's generally in the stock market. But there are other avenues, and there's some really good ways to invest your money at these times.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna give Trent. I'll wear this button out. I appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks y'all for tuning in. This wraps up the KYREN Monteiro show. This is episode 10. You'll see the title on whatever we name it, and this wraps up this. And we're gonna put these on Spotify, Apple, wherever podcasts are. It's already going to be on YouTube and Facebook. So we appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.